Hello, everybody, Giants fans, baseball fans, and my fellow disgruntled baseball lifers. It is 12:33 in the morning, and that means it is time for your Insomniac Lunatic Fridge Giants postgame show. You know, I said when I came on my postgame last night, or shall I say yesterday morning, that it wouldn't be the end of the world if the Giants were swept by the Mets. It happened. The Giants are swept by the Mets. 5-3 was the final. It was two home runs in the top of the seventh inning. First by Ronnie Mauricio, a ball into the water that McCovey Cove Dave didn't get. Someone from the Jung Hoo crew got it. So either he beat Dave out, but I didn't see him. So either Dave wasn't there or he was just positioned in the wrong place. Two home runs and then Juan Soto an opposite field shot to left field later. That gave the Mets a 4-3 lead, and it was off Randy Rodriguez, who had survived a jam in the top of the sixth. He's been Bob Melvin's secret weapon all year, went to the All-Star game. Very unfortunate to see him get the loss tonight. The Mets would tack on another run in the ninth. The Giants would load the bases with one out in the bottom of the ninth against the Mets' eccentric closer, Edwin Diaz. Giants had a runner at first and went out last night, or shall I say Saturday night, against Diaz after Jung Hoo Lee doubled, but the Giants were unable to come through. Willie Adames was caught looking. And then Matt Chapman, who had hit two home runs earlier in the game, struck out swinging to end the game. Mets win at 5-3. Giants are swept and fall to just 2 games over 500 for the first time since March 31st. They are 54-52. The worst part about this, the Giants went 0-7 tonight, or shall I say last night, with runners in scoring position, and they went 0-21 in the series with runners in scoring position. I mean, they did hit into some bad luck, a lot of line drive outs, including in this game, but also just wasted opportunities. They cannot come through with runners in score position. And I said it wouldn't be the end of the world if they lost to the Mets, but you look at the 0-21 with runners in scoring position in the series, this is not good. So the Giants are 54-52. We saw the Giants go from 10 games over 500 in June of 2022 to 8 games under 500 in September to a 500 finish at 81-81. We saw the Giants go from 13 games over 500 in July of 2023 to a 73-89 finish. Or I'm sorry, to a 79-83 finish that year. We have seen the Giants go from 12 games over 500 to just 2 games over 500. And now you're at a point where if things do not change, and they do not change fast, you're looking at your fourth straight mediocre 500 season. Kyle said it takes one win to get going, which he's absolutely right. He's been our voice of reason here all year. The bad news is the Pirates are hot, and we will see lots of the same teams in the next week and a half. Of course, we go to New York over the weekend, and then we go to Pittsburgh next week. The Pirates have won 5 of 6. They swept the Tigers, who granted had lost 12 of 13. They snapped their losing streak yesterday, beating the Blue Jays 10-4, but they led 10-0 going to the ninth, and they ended up winning 10-4. And then they just took 2 or 3 from the Diamondbacks over the weekend at PNC Park. Pirates are playing good baseball right now, but here's the problem. Giants are 2 games over 500. I'll get to that in a minute. Kyle, of course, and a lot of people are upset about Elliot Roms's base running blunder in the third inning. I will get to that. The Giants are just 2 games over 500. And you've got 9 games coming up against red-hot teams. Let's say the Giants go 3-6. They're under 500 on August 6th with just 47 games to play. Now, granted, the Giants were 2 games over 500 the first week of August in 1987. They got going. They traded for Rick Russell, and they got going. And they ended up going 90-72, winning the division, and having Will Clark go absolutely berserk in the visitors' clubhouse at Jack Murphy Stadium after the game. But let's say the Giants go 2-7. And they fall to 56-59 with 47 games to go. Kyle says this team isn't dead, and it's not, and they're far from dead. I mean, they're only 3 back. with 56 games to go. They just need an arm in the rotation, one more bat. Doesn't have to be big names either. And that is why this is going to be a massive week. The trade deadline is Thursday. And by the way, on Thursday, 2:30 p.m. Pacific, we are going to have the 2025 Insomniac Lunatic Fringe trade deadline show. I've got a couple of guests hopefully coming, one who most likely will be coming, another who may be coming. I'll confirm those, or I'll say who those guests are when either they can confirm for sure or they actually come on, because I don't want to. Bruce McGowan, I announced at the beginning of that show that he'd be one of my guests for this All-Star Break special, and then he got COVID and didn't come on until an hour in, so I don't want to make that same mistake again. But do join us Thursday, 2:30 Pacific, 3:30 Mountain, 4:30 Central, and 5:30 Eastern. Oh, Kyle, I am around to be on with you for the deadline. I would love that, buddy. If you can do it, I would greatly appreciate it. If not, it's totally okay. I don't like to be a burden on people. But this will be a massive trade deadline. I think Sean Murphy, I think you may have mentioned Kyle Sean Murphy. He'd be a good ad. The Giants could definitely go for a rotation arm. The Giants do need help in the rotation with Hayden Birdsong down in the minor leagues. Logan Webb and Robbie Ray have both had great seasons, and they do need some help in that rotation. So let's talk about in the bottom of the third inning. Giants were trailing 1-0. The Mets got on the board in the top of the third. The Giants had they had Elliot Ramos at second with 2 outs. Willie Adames at the plate. Little check swing roller along the third base line. It stays fair. It's going to be an infield hit. But Elliot Ramos, for whatever reason, took off to third and took off late to third. And Ronnie Mauricio was able to apply the tag, and that ended the inning. I mean, far from Ruben Rivera level base running, but still really bad. Kyle thinks he should be benched. He says the Ramos base running was inexcusable. He needs to be benched for a day because that was bad. I understand that. But this is something that has become far too common in our game today. And with the nerds basically running a lot of organizations, including the Giants organization up until last season, they're not teaching guys basic fundamentals. And so you're seeing these type of rookie mistakes every single day throughout baseball, and we've seen it really every single day these last 3 seasons. Ramos definitely needs to be talked to about it. That was unacceptable, and that cannot happen again. So I definitely understand the frustration with people over that one. Kyle makes the point it's become common, so you make an example to show it's not okay. Here's the thing, though. If the reason I'm not sure, because I've never been a big believer in the Dallas Green, Frank Robinson, Dick Williams type of disciplinarian managing. And I don't believe really in disciplining guys unless they have a really bad attitude, unless they're creating chaos and mayhem in the clubhouse. If Ramos already feels horrible about this blunder, which he already may, and if he's having a hard time hitting the sack tonight because of it, there's no need to punish him. Now, Kyle makes the point, and Ramos hasn't been swinging it anyway. He needs a day to relax. Fair point. But he shouldn't be punished for this, is my point. I get it. I understand the urge to do it. But I'm sure he already feels bad enough about it. I'm sure he's having a hard time sleeping tonight. I don't think there's any need to punish the guy. I'm not just like, oh, it happens. It was unacceptable, and that cannot happen again. Maybe if he does it again, maybe benching him for a day. But I just don't think that's necessary here. Now, again, if a guy is causing trouble in the clubhouse, if a guy, say, is not hustling and is obviously dogging it on the field, yeah, bench him. Billy Martin would pull a guy from the game, pulled Reggie Jackson from the game in Boston on June 18th, 1977 because of his lackadaisical effort on that fly ball to right field. Though, let's be honest, Billy hated Reggie and was looking for any chance he could to show Reggie up. And I do hope that someone had a talk with Ramos right away. That's something that if Ron Wotus was still in the dugout, he absolutely would have done. But, that truly cannot happen, especially right now as the Giants are in a pennant race and are trying not to fall too far behind in the standings. But I am going to say this, Kyle. If they don't get going soon, and let's say they go 3-6 in the next 9 games, they come out of the road trip 9 games, or they come out of the road trip under 500, or let's say they go 2-7 and they come out of the road trip 3 games under 500 as they're prepared for a homestand against the Nationals, the Padres, and the Rays, and then another road trip through San Diego and Milwaukee, and then a homestand that starts against the Cubs. Giants have a very tough schedule in August. The good news is the Giants have played well against good teams this year. They got off to their 24-14 start against some pretty damn good teams. But if they fall under 500 with 47 to go going against that tough stretch, I'm not going to feel really good. And Kyle said it. If they get below 500, it's time to panic a bit. And let's say they get swept by the Pirates and fall under 500. And let's say they get swept by the Mets over the weekend in New York and fall to 4 games under 500. And then they lose 2-3 to the Pirates in Pittsburgh, and they're 5 games under 500 with 47 to go. And at that point, you're probably at the very least 5 to 7 games back. Then they're in big trouble. Thursday is going to be massive. The Giants definitely need to add some guys without trading the farm. Speaking of the farm, Carson Whisenhunt, who is the Giants' third biggest prospect, at one point was a top 100 prospect in baseball, but he's fallen off over the last couple years. He is going to make his big league debut, shall I say, tonight, as the Giants take on the Pirates, game 1 of a 3-game series. Mitch Keller, right-hander, will go for Pittsburgh. It'll be a 6:45 start. Kyle, how do you think Whisenhunt will do? Because sometimes when a new pitcher comes up, the league will have a bit of a hard time adjusting to him. He's being thrown, and I'm not a big fan of this move. I get that the Giants need help in the rotation right now, but throwing this kid into a big pennant race game, which this is, Pirates are playing spoilers here. Throwing this kid into a big pennant race game as this team is trying to stay afloat in the standings. I'm sorry, I don't like this move. Though Kyle said it, rookie pitchers tend to do better than rookie batters. I still don't like this move, and I have grave concerns about Whisenhunt's ability against a hot Pirates team. And let's be honest, even if team is 18 games under 500, which the Pirates are, they're 44-62. They're a pretty dangerous team right now. And they're enjoying playing spoilers, and they're going to be ready to play when they come into Oracle Park tonight. And the thing is, the Giants better be prepared. So some scores from around the league, and let's go to pennant race games. The Red Sox, after a really rough start to the second half, took 2-3 from the Dodgers. They came back with a 3-run bottom of the 5th inning, and they held on to beat the Dodgers 4-3 to take 2-3 from the Dodgers at Fenway Park. So the Giants remain 7 back of the Dodgers in the National League West. Pirates, of course, 6-0 over the Diamondbacks, who now fall to 4 games under 500. And Kyle said it, Don Kelly's done a great job since taking over as the manager of the Pirates. Yankees over the Phillies, 4-3 in the Bronx. The Mets now 2 games ahead of the Phillies in the National League East. The Reds, who have gotten hot, they beat the Rays 2-1, sweeping the Rays. Tigers over the Blue Jays, already got to that one, 10-4. Royals over the Guardians, 4-1. So the Tigers gain a game, and they are back to 8 games over the Guardians in the American League Central. The A's sweep the Astros in 4 in Houston. 7-1 the final in that one, but the Mariners dropped the finale of their 4-game series in Anaheim 4-1. Mike Trout hitting a home run in that game in a 4-run bottom of the 5th inning for the Angels, which was also Mike Trout's 1,000th career RBI. So congratulations to Mike Trout on that. Angels beat the Mariners. Mariners settled for the splits, so they remain 4 back of the Astros in the American League West. The Rangers, who are now 6 games over 500 at 8-1, at 56-50, they beat the Braves 8-1 to complete the sweep of that series. Braves fall to 44-60. It has not been a good season for the Atlanta Braves. And the Padres beat the Cardinals in St. Louis 9-2. They are now 3 ahead of the Giants for the National League wildcard. Brewers beat the Marlins 3-2. Cubs hold on to beat the White Sox on the south side of Chicago 5-4. So the Cubs and the Brewers remain tied atop the National League Central. We'll look at the standings now in the National League. And we're going to look at the wild card standings here. The Reds and the Rangers. Let's actually get to the Reds and Rangers before we talk about the Giants' place in the standings. The big one of the big themes this year in baseball has been teams around 500 getting really hot to get to 5 to 10 games over, but then getting cold to get to 4 or 5 under 500, only to get hot again and get back over 500. I do believe one of these teams is going to get hot and win 85 to 90 games, and at the very least be in it in the final week, possibly even sneak in the back door of the postseason. And the two teams I think really can do it are the Rangers in the American League and the Reds in the National League. And one big reason is because of their skippers, Bruce Bochy for the Rangers and Tito Francona for the Reds. Both teams are 56-50. The Rangers are tied for the Mariners for the third wild card in the American League. I still feel like Boston will fall off, but I really feel like I was declaring Texas dead just even a week, for the last several weeks, even up to a few days ago. But it'll be interesting to see what the Rangers can do. The Rays have fallen all the way back to 500 at 53-53. They've become one of those 500 teams. The Giants have become one of those 500 teams. They are now 3 back of San Diego. The Reds just a game back of San Diego. I could see the Reds sneaking in the back door of the playoffs too. Giants are now 3 back. And really, with the fact that the Giants are 3 back of the Padres and now 6.5 back of the Phillies for the second wild card spot, if we still had 2 wild cards like we did just 4 years ago, then we'd be at a point where the Giants might have to think about selling. Thankfully, that's not the case. But you got teams like the Phillies and the Mets up there. And the Mets are a team that feasibly could collapse, but they've won 7 in a row now. Doesn't mean anything. The Giants won 7 in a row at the beginning of June. The Padres, I think they're going to be that team in the third wild card. And the Giants cannot fall that much further behind the Padres. Not to mention the Giants are going to have 7 massive games coming up against the Padres. First 3 at Oracle Park in just 2 weeks now, and then the 4 at Petco Park in 3 weeks, which I may go down to San Diego for. I haven't been to San Diego in 3 years. I'd love to do that. Not sure I'm going to do that. Maybe about a 30% chance I'll do that, but I really want to do it. Kyle said it's hard to know who's good because everyone gets hot and then falls off before getting hot again. Yeah, that has been one of the main themes here in the 2025 season. It's been cool. It's been a much better season overall in terms of team storylines and races than last year was. Now, one thing Kyle is excited about, we could stop talking about the Giants the rest of the show, is that Saturday there will be a baseball game played at a NASCAR track. Kyle is a big NASCAR guy, often goes to the Sonoma Raceway to cover races there. Braves and the Reds on Saturday night in Tennessee will be playing a game at the at the NASCAR track there. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of cool. I'm down to see how that's gonna go. I may watch it, especially if the Giants are completely getting blown out on Saturday at Citi Field. Now, before I close out this show, yesterday was the official Hall of Fame induction ceremony. The Hall of Fame class of 2025 was officially inducted into baseball's Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York. 5 guys: Billy Wagner, CC Sabathia, Ichiro, and the late great Dick Allen and Dave Parker. Ichiro's speech was pretty cool. The guy who hasn't spoken much English throughout his baseball life and generally spoke through an interpreter gave close to a 20-minute speech in all English. Very funny, too. The guy has a good sense of humor and rightfully went after the one writer that didn't vote for him. Ichiro should have been unanimous. And he says, you had an invitation to dinner. That invitation is now expired. Good for him. And the fact that so many writers, including people who have been around the game very little and who have not even been around for, say, 10 or 20 years, can vote and have a say in this. And especially the fact that a lot of BBWAA guys have egos and can hold grudges against players as they did against guys like Barry Bonds, though that was understandable. I'm not trying to disrespect the BBWAA guys. They work very hard. It's a very tough job to be a beat writer, and it's a job I know I could never handle. Even going down to Anaheim or Arizona as I did 2 years ago, or up to Seattle last year as I did, to cover an entire series is hard. But they're also giving out memberships in the BBWA to guys who, frankly, should be nowhere near the Baseball Writers Association of America. And the fact that these people are the gatekeepers for the Hall of Fame, which is so sacred, I'm not sure that should be the case. And Ichiro, who I truly consider one of the greatest hitters in the history of the game, again, only came to the United States, came in 2001 when he was 27. Already played 8 years in Japan, and combined in Japan and in the United States, had 4,367 hits. Had he played here in the States, good chance he would have been the all-time hits leader. Ichiro was truly one of the best players to play in the history of the game, truly one of the greatest players in baseball history. You could even argue a top 10 player, one of the 10 best players to ever play baseball. 4,367 hits. 111 more than Pete Rose, who had 4,256. Nearly 200 more than Ty Cobb, who had 4,189. Ichiro had 178 more hits than the great Ty Cobb. The fact that he's not unanimous, that's a joke. And I can say without a doubt, Ichiro was the greatest player I ever saw. Now, Dave Parker, has become one of my favorite players of all time. A guy who was a real character and a real personality, and was one of the first African American players to have a real personality. And he got inducted, and he got voted in last year on the Veterans Committee. Lived to be able to be voted in, but sadly died just 36 days prior to his induction. His son, Dave Parker II, delivered the speech, and he also delivered a poem that his old man had written before he passed away, and I want to read it to you and show it on the screen. Here I am, number 39. About damn time. I know I had to wait a little, but that's what you do with fine aged wine. I'm a pirate for life. Wouldn't have it no other way. That was my family. Even though I didn't go on parade day, I love y'all. The Bucks own my heart. Because those 2 championships I got, y'all played in the first part. I'm in the hall now. You can't take that away. That statue better look good. You know I got a pretty face. Top tier athlete, fashion icon, sex symbol. No reason to list the rest of my credentials. I'm him, period, the Cobra. Known for my record arm, and I will run any catcher over. To my friends, families, I love you all. Thanks for staying by my side. I told y'all Cooperstown would be my last ride. So the Star of David will be in the sky tonight. Watch it glow. Watch it glow. But I didn't lie. In my documentary, I told you I wouldn't show. That, I'm not going to lie, that was a great poem. And the guy still had it even up to his death. Now, he's referencing in 1979, and you would have seen this if you watched the MLB Network documentary on Dave Parker, which, by the way, watch that documentary. That was a great documentary. It came out in 2019. He had a contentious negotiation for a contract extension prior to that year, and a lot of Pirates fans were booing him, and he was angry and didn't show up to the World Championship parade. He was not a bad clubhouse guy. He was actually very beloved in that clubhouse, and when he went to the A's in 1988, Tony La Russa viewed him as a real leader and and turned to him to be a leader in that clubhouse. And then he went to the Brewers in 1990 and was a real father figure for Gary Sheffield, who is Parker's son's age. I don't know if it's Dave Parker the second's age, but my favorite was when Gary Sheffield charged them out at a game. And he said to Gary Sheffield, "If you make my old ass get up again, I'm going to beat your little ass." And the thing was, Parker was cocky, but he was able to walk the walk to back up the talk. And if a guy can walk that walk to back up the talk and remain a good clubhouse guy, and he made the stink about his extension. I think either in 79 or 80, he showed up to spring training a week late, right before games started. He was a good clubhouse guy. I don't think he should have showed up to spring training late. I don't think that was cool. But for the most part, he earned that ability to be the personality that he was. I love Dave Parker. But it was also understandable the pain and anger he felt. He was one of the first African Americans to have a real personality, and he faced a lot of hostility as a result of that. But at the end of the day, the guy was an incredible ball player and an incredible man. Came up from a very humble background growing up in Cincinnati. He played 20 years in the big leagues, first coming up in 1973. Or I'm sorry, 19 years in the big leagues, first coming up in 1973 and retiring in 1991. The Cobra is in the Hall of Fame. And the Cobra, Dave Parker, will forever be a Hall of Famer. All right, that'll do it. This has been your Insomniac Lunatic French Giants post-game show. For Kyle Foster in the comments, who hopefully will join us for our trade deadline show on Thursday, 2:30 Pacific. For Lee Leonard, my boss at Sports Radio Service, this is the Insomniac Lunatic Fringe is a sports radio service production. I'm Stephen Rubin. I hope you enjoyed the true Insomniac Lunatic Fringe on this very early Monday morning. Have a good night, and I will talk to you soon.